This is Danielle Kelly with the Wave 94 Weather Center, and this week we've been talking about weather preparedness tips and how to be prepared. And on our forecast today, we talked about the difference between a watch and a warning. And after that, I decided to do a Facebook poll. I think it's very important to understand the public's perception of what the difference between the two are and make sure that there's no misunderstanding. And if there is a misunderstanding, we need to be able to communicate more effectively to help keep people safe. So here it is. This is my favorite meme. And I go by it. You can pretty much take the tornado off because this applies to all watches and warnings. But to know the difference, a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch, what have you, would mean that conditions are favorable, that the type of weather that the watch is for could materialize and can occur. It doesn't mean it's necessarily happening, but it means that the conditions are there, the atmosphere is ripe for that kind of weather. The warning means it's actually imminent or happening in your area. And so it's very important to prepare during the watch phase of it because warnings come, sometimes we have a good lead time on warnings now, but sometimes you don't always have the greatest amount of notice, so you need to have your plan in place automatically. For watches, I'm going to discuss severe thunderstorm and tornado watches for a second. All severe thunderstorm and tornado watches come from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. They are what most meteorologists call the Navy SEALs of weather forecasting. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, monitoring conditions around the nation and highlighting hazards. If the Storm Prediction Center sees an area that's in trouble and that they think should be placed under a watch, and a watch is a greater geographic area, they will start what we call a mesoscale discussion, and that's this little MD tab right here. And in that mesoscale discussion, and I'm going to pull up one that's an archive. This is old. This is not current. This was for our area back in January 22nd of this year when we did indeed have a deadly outbreak. They issued a mesoscale discussion. You can see it's January, not April, and they discussed whether or not a tornado watch was likely. They identified the hazard. Sometimes it'll say severe thunderstorms on them, the percentage of probability of issuance, and then they'll detail in a discussion what they think the conditions are that are promoting the need for the watch. Now, at the bottom, they will also put attention weather forecast offices, and they'll notify all the weather forecast offices. That's the National Weather Service offices in that area. Here it was Tallahassee, Birmingham, Jacksonville, etc. So once they issue this mesoscale discussion, then they decide whether or not they're going to put up a watch. When they do put up the watch, they notify, of course, they're already coordinating with the National Weather Service offices in that region, and they'll put a watch, and it will come up under this watch tab right here. At the same time, they will do watch status updates and monitor the watch. But the National Weather Service office in that region also kicks in. And here are all the National Weather Service offices nationwide. Here's Tallahassee down here. They do forecasts and warnings for southeast Alabama, southwest and south central Georgia, portions of the Florida Panhandle and Big Bend. And what Tallahassee would do at that point, if part of our area is under a watch, is they will monitor and they will issue warnings that are necessary. So if a watch was issued on this map, you would see that watch, what kind of watch it was. It would be out, they would have a little tab out here that would explain more detail about it. And warnings within that watch, they would also highlight and have over here. When they issue those warnings, they go out everywhere to everybody. So the media gets them, everybody else. And that's a key one point in preparing for a watch is monitoring the weather. I bookmark this page during a watch. I mean, I'm constantly watching it, looking for warnings to my north and west, usually from where our weather comes from, and also looking at radar and staying up to date on what's going on. The National Weather Service in Tallahassee I don't really see them put their warnings on Facebook because the algorithms usually show older posts. So because it's such an emergent situation, they will put them on Twitter. Twitter is real time. And on Twitter, you can follow all kinds of National Weather Service offices and even the Storm Prediction Center. Here's the National Weather Service Tallahassee, for example. And you can also follow National Weather Service Severe Thunderstorm, where you can see the severe thunderstorm warnings, and National Weather Service Tornado. Now, I kind of treat, and I want you to treat in your preparation for a watch, a severe thunderstorm watch and a tornado watch the same. The Storm Prediction Center issues three kinds of watches. They issue severe thunderstorm watches, they issue tornado watches, and then they issue a special kind of tornado watch. And that's what we refer to as a PDS tornado watch, meaning particularly dangerous situation. And that's when the conditions are favorable for violent long track tornadoes. So, but they're all serious. And I don't want to downplay severe thunderstorm watches at all, because one, severe thunderstorms can produce tornadoes with little warning. And number two, severe thunderstorms carry the risk of straight line wind damage, which in some cases can do as much damage as a tornado. So they always need to be taken seriously. So in your plan for the watch, you need to make sure you're monitoring the weather. And because you're probably not going to sit on Twitter all day looking at this stuff, you need to make sure you have a way to get warnings. And I'm a big advocate of NOAA Weather Radio. The Southeast is a danger with tornadoes for several reasons. Number one, they happen in months where people typically don't expect severe weather. December, January, February, for example. Number two, they're often fast moving, so that cuts down on the warning time and the time you have to take cover. And number three, they often happen at night, and that's really, really problematic when you have people asleep and you need a way to wake them up. So I will promise you this: a NOAA Weather Radio will wake you up. Also, smartphone apps. Apps are great. Make sure that whatever app you get is relaying the warnings from the National Weather Service. I use NOAA Weather Radio set to Leon County. I also use a local TV station that relays warnings that are coming in from the National Weather Service to make sure my phone notifies me as well. So make sure you have a way to get warnings. Also, it is very important for you, of course, to prepare a safe place and for you to go. And ideally, a safe place in this kind of warning would be a basement, but they're not common in the Southeast necessarily. So safe place is, let me identify first off what is not a safe place. A mobile home or a car are never a safe place to be in a tornado. End of discussion. Unfortunately, we've seen too many fatalities happen in mobile homes in the Southeast. So if you are under a watch, you need to find, and you live in a mobile home, you need to find a sturdy structure to hang out in for that until the watch is over. As far as a car goes, they can become a missile in a tornado, and it can be devastating. So you never want to be in a vehicle during a tornado warning. If you are, you need to get to the nearest building you can. In both scenarios, mobile homes and cars, you are absolutely safer lying down in a ditch and covering your head than you are staying in them. All right, so now you know to monitor the weather. You know you have to have a way to receive warnings. You know what's not a safe place. Well, what is a safe place? A safe place, if you don't have a basement, is an interior room in your home, a small interior room with as many walls between you and the outside as you can possibly get. No windows, no outside walls. Small room. In that small room, you need to have a way to protect your head. Bike helmets work great. Also, you need to have shoes. Goodness forbid your home was damaged and you had to walk out. We don't need you stepping on nails and debris and getting injured. So shoes, helmets, safe place, small interior room, no windows, no outside walls. That's where you want to be. And of course, take a smartphone with you so you can monitor the weather situation. Most TV stations would stream live, and you can pull up Tallahassee National Weather Service on there. So now we know where to go. Now we know we need to receive warnings, and now we know we need to monitor the weather. But we also need to know a couple more things. You need to know your county, and I think you'd be really surprised how many people don't know exactly where their county is. So make sure definitely you know your county, but also make sure you know your area. We used to do tornado warnings on a countywide basis, meaning if a tornado was coming into southern Leon County, a warning would go out for the entire county. Well, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing what we call these polygons because we are able to pinpoint where these things are. The problem with polygons is they confuse some people. People don't know where they are in relation to this polygon. Now, if a tornado warning is, I know on January 22nd, a tornado warning was issued for Northwest Tallahassee. Thus, Northwest Tallahassee got that warning, but there wasn't a warning in southern Leon County at the time. But still, if I'm in Northwest Tallahassee, how do I know where I am in this polygon? It's important to know your area too, as well as your county. For example, if I saw this and I lived in this area, this was Texas yesterday, I'd know I-10 was here, I-90's here. They have little towns around here, and I'd know where I am in relation to the county line. If this was a tornado warning for Northeast Tallahassee, I would expect to see Bradfordville on this map. South of Tallahassee, I would expect to see Woodville. So know where you are in relation to those places. if you are in or near the polygon, if a warning is issued, then you need to go to your safe place regardless. As much as we love to, as much as we love that we know so much about where these things are and we're able to pinpoint them now, we still can't control them. And they can turn right, they can turn left, they kind of have a mind of their own. So you need to make sure if you're in or near that polygon, you are in a place of safety. Okay, so that takes care of your preparation for watches and what to do when actually a warning is issued. At the point a warning is issued, you're done with everything else, and you just put in your safety plan and you go. Not to exclude the fact that hurricane season is around the corner. The tropical storm watches, hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings are issued by the National Hurricane Center. And what they do is they monitor areas of the Gulf, the Caribbean, the Atlantic, and they issue outlooks and discussions on points of interest. And they'll issue watches and warnings if they have to. Preparing for those is a little different, but in Florida we're used to it, of course. Key point, fast line rule, obey all evacuation orders. We would rather have you mad that you left and nothing happened than if you stayed and got stuck. And I think we've learned that lesson over the years in other states. So obey evacuation orders. Number 2, if you're going to stay behind, make sure you have enough water and food for you and your family to last. My rule of thumb is 7 days, just because I lived for 2 weeks without power after Kate, and we know it can be, pretty daunting. So make sure you have enough to take care of yourself. Also, medications and necessities, make sure you have those. Make sure your gas tank's full. Make sure you have a way to charge your smartphone, be it a car charger or one of those battery backup things. And batteries, flashlights are great. I never advocate candles during a windstorm. It's a fire hazard. So make sure you're using something with batteries. All right, so that's what you would do in case of a hurricane or tropical storm, and those watches are issued by the National Hurricane Center. So now that you know the difference between a watch and a warning, the key is to be prepared completely through the watch process so that if a warning is issued, you just implement your plan, and that way you're able to stay safe. Have a blessed day, everyone.